This is my pool plan video for DFFOO global version of the game in late October 2021, and this video will be covering events and banners featuring Ace as a synergy unit. So specifically, these events are Dimensions End Transcendence 5, Aranias Lost Chapters, and the Heretics event featuring the release of Christie's LD as shown on the cropped infographic on the left hand side. The infographic is derived from Jakematt's global forecast, and I will put a link of that in the video description, so if you want to see all the upcoming events and banners based on the JP version of the game, do check out the global forecast. So just a quick disclaimer before heading into the actual banners. This is really my plans based on specific reasons, and obviously may or may not be ideal for everyone else. There's multiple approaches to playing the game obviously, and there's of course many factors that should be considered when deciding which banners to spend your hard-earned gems and tickets on. And some of these factors includes the amount of gems and tickets you have, what roles that you actually need to fill the gaps in your roster with, of course your playstyle and preferences, everyone is always a little bit different there, and who your favorite Final Fantasy characters are. So the first event coming up will be Dimensions End Transcendence 5, and there'll be two banners on this event. The first banner featuring Ace, Kimahri, and Liz, and Ace will have his release of his LD BT weapon, and Kimahri will have all his weapons up to his LD. Second banner will feature a rerun of Bartz's LD BT and a rerun of Faris's LD. So it's a good banner to pick up both their kits if you're chasing both of these characters. For myself, my plan is to go specifically for Ace's LD. He's going to be very useful, at least to me, in the upcoming few events, given that his synergy, and he is actually pretty decent DPS even with just his LD alone. He brings some defense down utility to his kit while dealing some nice off-turn damage overall. Of course, if I can get his burst weapon along the way, it's all well and good, but on this very first banner on his arc, my prize will be his LD weapon. With regards to the banner at the bottom, I already have Bartz's full gear, so there's nothing else that I want. I also have Faris fully built as well, so the second banner is easy for me. It's a total skip, seeing that there's no weapons there that I currently need. The next event coming up after that will be Aranias Lost Chapters, featuring the return of Arania as well as Prompto receiving his Crystal level 80 and his LD weapon. Bartz's BT as always is featured as a weapon hero as well. To me, I already have Arania fully built, and I really don't have any interest in Prompto. I find his kit a bit too strange for my tastes. He functions sort of like an evasion tank, and he does have the ability to inflict lock-on debuff, but I'm pretty comfortable with the tanks that I have. And I also do note that there is also going to be Zack coming up pretty soon, or around the same time as this event, and really I feel that if you already have Zack plus minus all the other tanks available in the game, there's really not much need for Prompto. He does do some nice decent damage as well, and he's a good range attacker, but I feel he doesn't truly excel there. I may be wrong because I haven't played the JP version of the game, but from these perspectives, I really don't have any desire to pull for him, and I could really use the break to save up my gems and tickets given the heavy pulling I've done in the first half of the month. So as mentioned, around the same time, and this could be slightly before or slightly after Aranias Lost Chapters, in the JP version of the game they also got this banner featuring the release of Zackzelde and a rerun of Ash's LD. And on this banner, Zack also received a rework to update his damage capabilities to be more in par to the Lufenia Plus meta. And if Global is receiving the same banner, this is actually a pretty decent banner to pull in my opinion, mainly because tanks have very good value in the game, and also because we are entering a new era where there's going to be quite a lot of HP attacks. So for players who haven't had the chance to pull for tanks, if you're relatively new to the game, Zack will make a welcome addition to your roster and will save your party in certain fights, either in past Lufenia or future Lufenia Plus fights. My plan here is to go for tickets because I already have all of his other gear, and I could just aim tickets until I score his LD weapon and be done with the banner. The last event on this arc will be the Heretics event, and this one featuring the release of Quistis's LD, and Quistis herself will receive a rework as well. Now Quistis is a very old unit. She's been around for quite a long time. Back during the day when she was first released with a 35 CP weapon, she was widely regarded as the best delay unit in the game. But obviously throughout the months and years, her kit has gradually gotten out of date. She does receive a rework here, and her LD weapon does make her return to the top, probably as the best delay unit in the game, mainly because her delay has the added utility of not being affected by frame turns. So for example, even if the boss frame their turns and becomes immune to delay effects, Quistis's delay is the only delay effect in the game that will still work. And this to me is very interesting, and could potentially combo with quite a few other characters as well. For example, Sync or even Seed Reigns, who we recently received. Overall, I think it's always nice to have quite a utility in the roster, so for that I am going to pull for Quistis. Between gems and tickets, I am actually thinking more on using gems on this banner, and the only reason for that is I also skipped Palom the first time around when his LD weapon was released, and I don't think I even have his EX fully max limit broken. So by using gems aiming for Quistis' LD, I give myself at least some added chance to also pull for Palom's gear on the way. The other reason also is that the previous banners on this arc I will be pulling mainly using tickets, so it is also quite likely that by the time this banner comes around, I still will not have Ace's BT weapon. So this will be the banner that I guess gives me the highest chance to score his BT weapon as well if I go in straight with gems. But the overall weapon that I am aiming for will be Quistis' LD. Whether or not I get Palom's gear or Ace's BT, if I don't get any of them, I'll just stop once I receive Quistis' LD and move on. Palom's LD is a rerun, so if you've already pulled for it earlier, then this banner I guess have slightly less value. But overall, I think Quistis herself is a very solid character. Okay, so on this part of the video, I sort of categorized the LD characters that have been released in this arc into 3 different categories, and the categories that they are based on is divided based on how I see they provide value in upcoming runs. So characters who provide more value because they will see probably more use than the other characters are ranked higher, and characters that I feel will probably see less use are ranked lower. It doesn't mean that the lower ranked characters are bad. In fact, if they have their LD, they are probably all usable even in Lufenia Plus. But the key factor, at least that for me that I usually think about, is how much of the character will I likely be using, and if I pull for certain characters, will I even be using some of these other characters? And this is how I come to this slide. So overall, in terms of best value, I think to me it's a no-brainer. It's both the featured BT Plus units, especially now that we are in the start of the Lufenia Plus era, and having green BT Plus characters will probably go a long way. so the two good value characters in this arc will be Bards and Ace. I like Bards a little bit more, mainly because I tend to value support characters a bit more than DPS characters. But the other reason why Bards, I think, ranks higher, at least to me, is that he does provide Wind Enchant and Wind Imperil as well, that bypasses Enchant and Imperil immunity. So that is pretty good value there, because no other character in the game can do that currently, and there are bosses who are actually immune to Elemental Imperil. So Bards wins out because he has that extra value. On top of that, most people, including myself, will probably have pulled for Sid Reigns and Afmal. And if you're looking for a third party member to complement the core, Bards is an excellent choice here, because his BT aura provides very high Brave Refund based on the damage dealt, and this Brave Refund then goes into the next launch that Sid Reigns will do. So overall, Bards is an excellent unit to complement that core, and that to me increases his value even further. On the second category, I sort of placed two characters here, and the role fulfillment category is really characters who are still pretty good, but whether or not they have very high value or just decent value depends on how many other characters you have that has the similar role. So for example, Zack is really an excellent tank, and he is pretty valuable if you don't have any tanks or if you don't have many tanks. Likewise with Quistis, she is the best delay unit in the game, but that being said, that really also depends on how much you want to use delay units and how many other delay units you have in your roster. Overall, if you feel having a tank and a delay unit is good for your roster, then they would definitely serve you very well. So coming to the third category of what I call as consolation prizes, these are all the rest of the LD characters featured this arc, which is Kimari, Ferris, Ashe, Palom, Arania, and Prompto. The first three characters here in terms of Kimari, Ferris, and Ashe, I think are slightly better because they do have some added utility. Kimari actually becomes pretty decent, and he does have his total blindness debuff, which is pretty unique. But the reason why I place him here is I feel he's a little bit too niche for my tastes. So even though his total blindness may come in handy, there are many fights that you probably won't need to use him, and those few fights that he may come in use, there are probably other options as well that can go beyond him. So really, to me, I think he's just too niche for my tastes. Ferris is still one of the top tier call abilities in this game. However, to me, unfortunately, as a main party character, she seems somewhat lackluster. And given that you can only bring 3 characters in your party, I really wouldn't devote any party slot to her, and I'd rather use her as a call ability. And to me, I don't think even as a call ability, she's worth pulling very heavily for. Ashe is pretty decent because she does have the Elemental Enchant and Imperil, and I really rate that kind of utility a bit higher than others due to the fact that it helps you push Brave damage through. And Ashe also has some decent turn manipulation, so if you did skip, say for example Afmal, and you want a party member that will help Reigns to shine even brighter, then Ashe is a good pickup. But the reason why she's in this category is mainly due to the fact that there are other characters who will perform better. So for example, Bards, as I mentioned, also provides the Elemental Enchant and Imperil, and his Imperil actually goes through debuff immunities. So if you already have Bards and you plan to pull for him, I think you probably have less need of Ashe. And the other reason is also majority of people would have pulled for Afmal as a turn manipulator, or if you want a little bit of turn manipulation, you can just use Quistis to delay the boss and manipulate turns that way. As for the bottom 3 in terms of Palom, Arania, and Prompto, I really think it's past their time to shine. if you really want to use them, their time was on several events ago. They can still be used now, but really again the question is, and this is why I always ask myself, is why do I want to bring them when I can bring other units? So for example, Palom is pretty okay as a DPS, but I would have had Ace or Seed Reigns by the time this event comes around, or even Zidane. So that's really less likely that I'll be using Palom. Arania features as a very solid delay character, and her LD enables her to break on all her skills. However, I place her here because Quistis is featured in this arc, and really to me, if I want a character to help me delay units, I would rather go for Quistis than to go for Arania here. And lastly, for Prompto, maybe this is really just my personal bias coming through, and I did see some videos where Prompto did do quite well, but overall I don't really like his kit. So to me, I probably won't even use him that much, even if I did pull for his gear, so he lands on this final bucket. So that brings us to the end of the video. Long story short, in summary, I will be using tickets aiming for Ace's LD. I will be skipping Arania and Prompto. I already have Bartz's gear, so I don't need to pull for Bartz as well. I will spend tickets for Zack's LD, and I will be using gems aiming for Quistis' LD. As for Ace, whether to BT token or not, if I don't get his BT at the end of the arc, is actually still a question mark for me. In my last full plan video, I did say I will token for Zidane's BT, but luckily enough, I did manage to score his burst weapon along the way, so I'm still having my 50 burst tokens ready. I probably will plan to play test Ace a bit just to see how much I like him, and if I feel I will be using him quite a lot, then I may token for his BT if I don't get it. But if not, I'm pretty happy to hang on to my BT tokens for a little while more. So that's it for this video. As always, I hope that it's been informative and enjoyable, and if you like the content, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.